Welcome back to Not a Straight Line with me, Pete Daly-Dickson. This is the show that explores the non-linear journeys of artists and entrepreneurs to inspire you as you zigzag through your own non-straight line life. And this week, I connected with the serial entrepreneur and artist, Jodie Bentley. Jodie has been a performer from a very young age, but she wasn't always the star of her show. From feeling like a side character growing up, she's become a powerhouse in theatre, television, film, and business in a way she couldn't have dreamed of in her youth. A survivor of breast cancer, a trusted teacher of actors in the industry, an enterprising coach and creator, the list goes on for Jodie, and I managed to catch her at a turning point in her inspiring journey. Jodie is another multi-hyphenate who I strongly resonate with, and I learned a bunch in this conversation that I'm sure you'll enjoy. Let's go. So as we do at the beginning of all episodes of Not a Straight Line, three of us will just take a minute to get on the same page, in the same space. We'll close our eyes, we'll do 3 physiological sighs, and one of those is 2 breaths in through the nose, held for a beat, and then breathe out through the mouth. So you want to breathe in. And again. One last time. Jodie Bentley, welcome to the Not a Straight Line podcast.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
It's great to be with you on Valentine's Day. Happy Valentine's Day.
I know. Happy Valentine's Day. I love it.
Have you done anything, or are you going to do anything special today?
We are. I mean, it's only 11 a.m. where I am. But yes, my husband and I have a tradition of ordering in sushi and making it a lovely romantic evening at home.
Right. Well, this is what I'm doing on Valentine's Day evening. So go me, eh? So you just said there where you are, and it's one of the things I like to do at the beginning of these episodes is just to like orient us geographically where you are in the world. So where is it at 11:15 in the morning?
Yes, 11:15, 11:16 now. I am in Los Angeles, California, specifically Encino, California. We just moved to Encino a couple of years ago and bought a place here.
Great. So we've kind of got a bit of a placeholder for a zag that leads us to Los Angeles. So we'll come to that at some point. But before we get there, you and I, Jodie, we're going to climb to the top diving board and we're going to jump into the conversation. Your answer to the question that I sent you a couple of days ago on email. Now, you've already shared with me that there was like 8 or 9 zags that came to mind for you when you read that question. So you've got a rich, got some rich pickings to do there. So pick one, because we can come back to the others. Yeah.
Yeah. I just love the idea of looking back, and I do it a lot. And I teach my clients to do that a lot of like, what makes you who you are? How did you get where you are? Because there's so many choices and paths we can take. And that's why I love that you call this like not a straight line. So it's just so interesting to examine our lives. Right. And then I think looking back, I think one of the biggest things that sort of propelled this latter half of my life, a part of my life, was making the choice to move to Los Angeles, actually. So I lived in New York City for many, many, many years. I went to college in New York, got a BFA in acting at NYU. And, New York was my blood. It's where I lived most of my life and still is where I lived most of my life. So to make that choice to move to LA, I remember because I started traveling a lot to LA, teaching actually. And there was one year I traveled like 4 times that year. So I was booking out as an actor all the time, traveling to LA and teaching. I just remember there was one trip I was going back to New York and the plane was coming in and I could see the New York skyline and I was like, okay. And we landed on the runway and I was like, ugh. And I was like, well, that's not a good feeling coming home, And I was like, I got to move to LA. And I was married at the time in another marriage, actually my first marriage. And I just remember going home and saying, I need to move. I need to move to LA. So I think on many levels, it was a huge zag in my life. One, is that I'm very good at putting other people first and other people's needs first. And for me to say, I need to do this for my career and what I want was big for me. And then to leave New York City, like honestly, Pete, I lived there for 20 years, including college. Like I was there a long time. And to like leave the East Coast in New York in particular to move to LA. And when so many of my friends were like, why are you going to LA? Everyone's fake. Everyone's awful. Everyone's this, everyone's that. Like, you find your people wherever you go, you know?
True that.
But that,
Yeah.
that was the biggest thing that, I mean, propelled every other life path that I've had since then. But yeah, that choice to move. And then we actually moved probably within 6 months of my saying, hey, I want to do this. With 6 months later, we ended up on the West Coast.
So how would you describe your people then? If you find your people wherever you go, how would you describe your people?
My people, they're grounded, they're real, they're honest, they have integrity, they're fun. They say what they mean and they mean what they say, you know? And I think LA gets this reputation of the Hollywood industry, the vapidness, or it's all about fake, you know? And that's of course that's part of the experience here, I'm sure. But when you find your people, you find your people. So it's not really
Mm.
been a big part of my experience here, for sure.
And in this day and age, I guess you don't necessarily have to be in physical proximity to your people. You know, we can stay connected to our people
Yeah.
wherever they are.
For sure. Yeah. I mean, I have friends all over the world. I still have lots of friends in New York. Um, but, you know, maintaining community, and I know you talk a lot about community, maintaining community is very intentional. It's very intentional. And to continually have that connection and reach out and be vulnerable. And, you know, especially I tend to surround myself with a lot of strong, independent women, you know, opinionated women. And we're busy. We're really busy. And sometimes like, oh, I don't want to reach out to them. I know they're busy, or I don't want to nag them, or I don't want to, you know, and that whole thing, I think, keeps people disconnected. So just sometimes even just a simple text of thinking of you, I know you're busy, is great.
So you mentioned going to university in New York.
Yes.
What was that to study?
Acting. Yeah, I got a BFA
Okay.
in acting from NYU.
So acting's obviously always been a big part of your life then.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Since I was 10 years old.
What happened at 10?
Um, that was my first show I did was at 10. And
What was it? What was it?
oh, there's a few, but I think the first one I did, it was The Sound of Music. It was The Sound of Music, and I was terrified. I remember one of my, friends' moms asked my mom, "Hey, I'm taking my son to audition for the High School Musical. Do you want Jodie to come?" When I was 10 years old. My mom asked me, and I was like, "Yeah, let's go," you know? And then I got a part as Marta in The Sound of Music, and I just remember that first performance, and we had to step forward and say our character name, which all I had to do, my only line was to say Marta. And I don't know what came out of my mouth, Pete. It was like, Marta. Like, I don't know, like, what happened. It was an out of body experience. And I was like, oh my God, this is terrifying. And then, like, the applause happened at the end of the song. And I was like, oh. I felt seen. I felt validated. I felt heard. And I think that's what acting in that community gave me, was just a sense of belonging. And you know, I'm sure many people's story is similar, but I wasn't always seen and heard at home. I wasn't always, it never felt like I belonged as a kid. I always felt like I was on the outside looking into my own family sometimes. And
Why was that? Do you have siblings? Why was that?
yeah, I have an older sister, and she to this day functions on the level of a 2-year old. So she's always had a cognitive disability. They think it's because my dad was in Vietnam. So they think it's Agent Orange from Vietnam that sort of
Oh my
made
God.
her that way.
Mm, mm,
So growing up, I always had to be the older sister, even though I was the younger sister.
mm,
And, you know, uh, it's tough raising a child with special needs in that regard, right? Of what my
mm.
parents had to do. So my little brain when I was a kid was just like, be perfect, be the perfect kid, don't rock the boat. You know, so I always, again, put their needs above mine, always wanted to take care of everything, never wanted to ask for anything.
So that was ingrained at a very early age then.
Yeah, very early, very early. Yeah, so I think and because my sister needed so much attention, I didn't really get that attention, you know? And no matter what I did, even if I came home with A pluses or, booked the lead in the school play or whatever, no matter what I did, they're like, oh, that's great, and then like move on, So it's like, what can I do to get seen? So yeah, acting really, I talk about this a lot. I feel like acting is so healing. I felt like it was so healing for me to be a part of that community and to step into the shoes of other characters in psychologies and people. And but also that space of, oh, I belong in this community and in this group and respected in that community and that group has always fueled me.
I'm not sure whether what you've just described there, Jodie, can ever be fully understood. So, for the listener who isn't an actor,
Mm,
how would you describe that?
that feeling? Oh gosh. You mean that the feeling of the belonging, or healing? What feeling are you speaking of? That?
Yeah. The other thing, this
Yeah.
opportunity that we have as actors to explore aspects of I mean, when we're playing a character, we can only use what's in us. So we're exploring aspects of our own character and psyche in order
Yeah.
to portray others. And that's something that I think is a real gift as an actor to be able to do that. So how can somebody who isn't an actor perhaps find a way of doing that apart from going to drama school and
Yeah, right. I think you could describe it as like it's therapy, but like super fun.
mm, yeah.
It's like I do feel like being an actor, being an artist has allowed me the space to heal parts of myself that, I think that I needed to heal in order just to be a human in this world. So I think it's kind of like therapy. I mean, I really think it is because I think in order to act, like you said, we're bringing ourselves to that character. So I have to understand myself and who I am and what makes me tick to then be able to understand the psychology of another human being and what makes them tick and what motivates them or drives them or their deep wounds or their trauma that made them who they are. Yeah, I feel like I do believe that acting, art, filmmaking, all of the writing, I do think it heals. I do think it can heal the world because it is about reflecting humanity to humanity. And I think even acting, I got to like reflect myself to myself in some way and go, oh yeah, that was painful. Oh, that was a traumatic thing. Oh yeah, you didn't have this thing. Oh, that's why you do that. Oh, that's why this character does that. So I think it's just really, I think it's just healing. Yeah, I think it's healing. It's like a therapy.
So with that in mind, why are the arts being cut? I mean, it's not just in the US and the UK as well, just all over. It always seems that the arts seem to be treated almost as a luxury or a nice to have, and yet you are not the first guest of this podcast to talk about the healing power of art and how vital it is to society, humanity, to being human. So
Mhm.
why is that? Why does that disconnect there? And what do you think we can do about it?
Well, that's a big question, Pete. I think it goes back to even what I said about like the perception of Hollywood earlier, right? Oh, it's this vanity, it's this look at me thing, right? I think people look at it as, like you said, a luxury, but also an ego based thing. So why are we going to support this ego based thing about these actors or this filmmaker or that director, as opposed to we can put the funding somewhere else? But I think people just miss the part of, I mean, look, if you look at plays, going back to like the Greeks and the Romans, and that was about community. That was about, togetherness. That's what brought those cultures together was, the philosophy written during that time, but the plays written during that time. And, I think we as a culture, we pass down stories. And as an actor, a writer, director, we're storytellers. And that's part of our culture and part of what we put out in the world. So it's very sad when funding gets cut because I just don't think people understand the bigger implication of we're losing then our ability to tell stories and pass down lessons, whether it's healing or whatever, or just like you said, reflecting humanity back to each other. We're missing that piece of it. And yes, it seems esoteric, and yes, it can seem oh, why bother? It's just acting. It's just this. It's just a play. It's just that. Like I can get that to some degree, but you just got to look under the surface and go, oh, but it has this deeper purpose and meaning. Like, when you go see a play and you see yourself reflected on stage, or a message goes, oh God, I get that. Right? This universal thing that connects us all, I think, is so important, because right now we're so divided. And how can we stay connected? And I really do think it's in art.
I had a guest recently, and she mentioned that there was she mentioned about some study on just being in the audience at a theatre production, the sympathetic regulation of the nervous system across the audience members observing it. There's
Mm,
physiological things happen when you observe art with other people, which I thought was fascinating.
right. Well, it's the same thing with sports. Like, I try to understand sports. I'm not a sports person. I call it the sports, but I watch it because my husband watches it. But when I take a 10,000-foot view on it and I go, okay, it's not necessarily my thing, but why do so many people love it? Why are so many people there? And it's because they're all rooting for this common cause. They're all coming together with this belief system around this team or around something, and they get to share in that connection. And I think as an audience member, you're sharing that experience with everyone in the audience, but there's also that energy exchange with the live theater with the people on stage, right? So it's kind of like all the same thing. Like, we need those community events on all different arenas, because again, it just, I think it bonds us. It bonds us. And I love what you said. Yeah. Like, I think it calms us down, right? That, oh, we're connected to these people. I can breathe. I don't have to live up here. Right. It relaxes us to some degree.
Mm.
And I just think it's vital. And how to solve that and get people to understand how important that is, I have no idea. I have no idea. Talking about it like this, putting it out in the world.
Yeah, and just keep doing art, keep doing it.
Yeah.
So, 10-year-old Jodie just been cast in Sound of Music. Oh man, Marta, I love that. So,
Exactly.
something that sort of comes to mind is that on one level you could argue, okay, 10 years old. Well, one question first: what was pre-10-year-old, younger Jodie into, if it wasn't art and acting?
um, what was I into?
You were getting great grades at school. Was there any
There's a part of me, to be completely honest, that I don't remember a lot of my childhood. I think it's a
really?
coping mechanism that I developed as a kid to protect myself. Just again, because I didn't, there was just a lot going on in my household. Just a lot going on in my household.
So it was art in a way that brought you to life.
Yeah. Yeah. Cause that was, for me, 10 was like fifth grade. Prior to that, it was friends, playing, connect. I mean, we grew up in the 80s, right? So like we would go on our bikes and ride around and like come home at dark. Do you
Yeah.
know what I mean? It's just very
Yeah.
different than sitting in front of the TV playing video games now.
Yeah,
We're
absolutely.
always out in connection.
So at one level you could argue, okay, 10-year-old Jodie gets an experience of theatre,
Yeah.
and obviously we already know that you studied acting at NYU, and then you worked in New York as an actor. That there's an aspect of that seems like a straight line. At 10 years old, you knew what you was. Did you know then that what you wanted to do?
Not necessarily, because again, I was really smart and got really good grades, right? So everybody thought that I was going to be a doctor. I thought I was going to be a doctor. I wanted to be a cardiologist. So when I was in high school, I applied to med school and acting school.
Hedge your bets, eh?
Yes, hedge my bets, exactly. And again, like, why not either one? One will work out. Obviously, very two different career paths. But I was headed to my second interview at Brown University for their medical program, and I got the call from NYU that I got accepted early into the acting program. I was like, oh yeah, I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go be an actor. I gotta go. I gotta go do that. That sounds way more fun than like 15 years of schooling or whatever.
Yeah, right. And the rest. And so, how did your family react to that?
I will say my parents were very supportive. I mean, I came from a very middle class, lower middle class family. I was probably one of the first people in my family to like go to college, and so to go to college for acting was obviously a little bit of a like, what? you know? But my parents were very supportive about it. But on the flip side of that, I mean, of course, they were probably scared for me and all of those things. But there was a time in high school where my great aunt, she again, my whole pretty much my whole family was very middle class, lower middle class. My great aunt had inherited money from my uncle from the Korean War, blah blah blah. So she was like one of the only people in our family that had wealth, and I have no idea how much, right? But she had some wealth, and so she had said to my parents at one point, "I will pay for Jodie's college education." And like that was huge. And then when I told her I was going to acting school, she pulled it all and said no. So I also learned that art was great, healed the world, but had no value, wasn't worth it,
Mm.
you know? So going to acting school with that at the back of my head when I graduated, ooh, I struggled. I struggled big time. I believed I didn't deserve to make money as an actor, didn't deserve to make money from my art. Who am I to have gone to school for this? Right. So every time there was an audition for a non-paying gig, I booked it. And every time there was like a Broadway show or something big, I like found some way to self-sabotage in my being because I just believed so deeply that there was no value in what I chose to do. And that took a long time to heal. That took a long time.
That sounds fairly symptomatic of a lot of artists, not just actors.
Sure. Yeah, for sure.
So are they living out other people's expectations, stuff that they've absorbed growing up?
Yeah, very much so. I mean, yeah, I can still look at, I love examining limiting beliefs, excuses, what gets in our way, all of that stuff. I help my own clients, examine that for themselves as actors and artists. Um, and I think that's a big one is like, I don't deserve it, or I don't deserve to make money from it, or who am I? The worthiness thing comes up. I think that's a big thing that holds us back. And even, I've spent years working on myself and releasing those things, and it still manifests, right? When the career raises up or new stakes come in your life or career, it's like I believe like those limiting beliefs that we have, I don't think we can ever fully get rid of them. We just learn how to turn the volume down on them.
What's the last time recently where you recognized that you were getting to a different level where your beliefs needed to be?
Yeah. Last year, I've been writing a screenplay. I finished my first screenplay.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you. Ironically, it is about a lot of trauma with my parents, right? So it's like using that
Write what
the
you know. Write what you
trauma
know.
to make art. That's what we do. But really, it's about the time in your life when you parent your parents is what my screenplay is about. But like putting that, like taking my life story and then making a screenplay out of it, and obviously taking some poetic license here and there and all of that. But there was moments through that of like, who cares? Who cares? No one's going to care about this, right? So like all of those things started to come up. But now that it's done and we're getting good feedback on the script, now it's reaching out to producers, investors, getting a director attached, and like, ooh, that's just triggering a lot of stuff of like, yes, I want to put out in the world this $2.5 million movie, and now I need to get the money and the packaging together on this, and that's it's been triggering things, and then I push through, and then it triggers things again, and so yeah.
So you're telling me it never ends.
It never ends, Peter Daly-Dickson. It never ends.
But some people might hear that and go, "Oh my God, what's the point?" But for me, that's just like, you mean I get to continue to explore parts of me which haven't been fully got out into the open yet. I just see
Right.
it as a really exciting opportunity.
Oh, I agree. And and it's not like, oh, discovering something like I never knew, right? When things come up now, I'm like, oh, it's that thing. No, Jodie, you're good. You're enough. Just send the goddamn email. Do you know what I mean? You're fine. Send the email. you know, I think it's just so important to recognize all that bullshit that gets in our way, and then being able to laugh at it, move through it, and go, what's more important, making my movie or falling prey to my excuses? Right. Of course, what's more important to make my movie. And is it scary to do that? Yes. Of course it's scary. It's scary to be an actor. It's scary to be a writer. I'm sure it's scary to be a director. I haven't done that yet. But you're constantly putting yourself on the line, right? Even doing this podcast, that's scary. You're putting yourself on the line with the stories you're choosing to put out in the world, right? And not a lot of people have the courage to do that. So of course it's scary.
So 20 whatever year old Jodie finishing university. How old were you then?
Well, I started college at 17 years old. So yeah, so 21. I was 21.
And going through that didn't obviously disavow you of the notion of being an actor. You knew that you were on the right path, or were there any times in that where you thought,
I mean, I think when I graduated, again, I was doing all these acting jobs for no money, right? So, like, I got to pay the bills somehow. I need to bring in money somehow. So I started working in sales, and I was really good at it, and I liked it. And then there was a point where my dad was like, "What are you doing? Like, we paid all this money for you to go to this damn school. What are you doing?" But it just felt like acting was such a hobby for so long, you know? And then I would go do summer stock and, get paid something. But summer stock was like at that point, $300 a week, $400 a week. Like, you don't, yeah, they give you housing and all that stuff, but it's not a way to make a living. So I did a lot of tours, I did a lot of things like that. But yeah, of course I doubted my path, but I'm also very stubborn. And once I commit to something, I commit, sometimes to a fault. So I was like, no, I'm not giving up. I'm going to keep going. I'm going to keep going. But it was like 8 years. For 8 years after college, I struggled. So many limiting beliefs, so much getting in my way, trying to do everything, not getting anywhere fast. Because they don't teach you, like in acting school, they teach you obviously how to be an actor, right? To access your instrument and know how to use that and dissect a script and blah blah blah. But they don't teach you how to run a business, because when you're out in the real world, you're running a damn business, like you got to know how to brand yourself, market yourself, how to network. What are your goals? How are you going to get there? What's your strategy? They don't teach you how to do that. And so for 8 years, I floundered. And then I had a moment of like, what am I doing? I cannot keep doing what I'm doing because I'm just hoping to get these $400 a week jobs and then, working way too hard on my day job, trying to pay bills. Like, this is not the life or the lifestyle that I wanted. And so that was the point in my career. So that was a big zag, if you will, in my life of I read, like, for 6 months, I read every freaking business book that I could get my hands on about sales, networking, branding, running a business, owning a business. What did that mean? And then I started taking those principles and going, okay, now how do I apply these principles for businesses? And how do I apply this to me? How do I apply this to me, this living, breathing, emotional, sensitive artist, human? And then when I finally did that, I started creating some systems for myself of going, oh, okay, I'm not going to book everything. What am I going to book? And I started creating like a branding system for myself. I go, okay, well, who do I need to meet in order to book those jobs where I really want to work? Oh, it's these people, right? And I started creating all these systems. And that's when my acting career started taking off in New York. Like, that's when I got my first agent. That's when I got my first off-Broadway show. I got to work with Stephen Schwartz on one of his musicals before Wicked, right? I got to do all that stuff. And it was because of finally going, who am I? What do I want? And how the heck am I going to get there? And really looking at it through a business lens. And I say this, that phrase a lot of like, take a 10,000-foot view on your career, because we get so caught up, even in life, right? We get caught up in the muck and mire and the day to day of our existence, right? And I think the only way to be able to get a clear visual is to like take a step back and go, what is actually going on here? Who am I and what do I want? And how can I change things?
is that the key question? What do I want?
Gosh, I feel like there's lots of key questions. I think it's who am I and what do I want? I think, because what do you want is great, but then who do you want to be? Right? Even not just even as an actor, just even in this world, who do you want to be in this world? What's the legacy you want to leave? As an artist, what are the stories that you want to tell? Like, I think for me, that's what helped me get clear, is asking those bigger questions, not just, oh, I need to book that job next week because I have to pay my rent. You know what I mean?
I do. And I guess, yeah, and I guess the reason I asked that, drill into that question, is I'm aware the listener might be
Yeah.
uh, like in the equivalent of your 8-year journey before it clicked for you. What would you say to them?
Yeah. I would say, who are you? Who do you want to be in this world? What do you want to leave this world with? What are those stories that you want to tell? And then leading to, and then what do I want? I think a lot of times we focus on the what do I want to have or what do I want to do versus who do I want to be, right? Well, if you can decide who am I, who do I want to be, then it's easier to do and have all the things that you want. So I think the questions are first.
Yeah. So when you asked and ask yourself that question now, what's the answer? Who does Jodie want to be? Who is Jodie?
I I want to I really what I work towards in my life is creating a space where everyone feels seen and heard and they feel like they belong. So for me, I tell stories of belonging, raising social consciousness, humanity, about humanity connection. Like when I read, even for auditions, like I'll turn down auditions. I'm like, that's not the thing I want to do. I don't want to go tell a story about a horror movie of people being cannibals in the desert. No, that's not my thing. Like I want to tell bigger stories that have meaning and purpose where people can see themselves in that. So for me, who am I? I tell stories of women who are myopic and obsessed to the extreme. I love those stories, women who are fighting for truth, justice, revenge themselves, whatever it may be. And so I look for that in putting out in the world, but also one of my huge values, and I think values are a huge part of who are you, right? Is this the concept of belonging. And thanks, I never felt like I fully belonged as a kid. And I feel like artists always feel like they're on the outside looking in. So for me to create spaces where people feel like they belong or give them tools and business systems or helping them, flip the switch on mindset of go, no, I do belong in this room. I do belong on this set. I do belong in this industry. That's what fuels me. That's what drives me. So sort of like everything I do comes through that lens. Even the script that I wrote has themes of all of that, right? The work that I do has themes of all of that. My coaching business has themes of that. I mean, my company's called Actor Insider, for Christ's sake, because I want actors to feel like they're on the inside, they're not on the outside looking in. So that concept for me is a huge part of who I am.
So going back to you coming to the end of the 8-year struggle period of your life, you're asking yourself those questions then. If I was speaking to Jodie at that point of her life, would she have answered that question in the same way?
Probably not. No, I think, we do grow and change, as artists. I mean, one thing I always teach about branding is your branding will evolve, but the core is still the same. So I feel like the core of me then was still the same. But I think I was searching so much at that point just to have a breakthrough. And for me, the breakthrough came of I think the who I wanted to be was someone who again, I think it was though, someone who felt like they belonged, someone who felt like they deserved to be in the room and someone who felt worthy of being able to book the stuff that I wanted to book. So I think that it was a huge mindset shifts for me then. So I do think that was probably the same. But the stories I wanted to tell then were different, that I decided to focus on musical comedies. I wanted to make people laugh. I wanted to entertain. I wanted to do something different at that point. I wanted to escape in the art, as opposed to heal from my art or tell these deeper, stories. So for me, it was more, let's go play. I want to make you play. I want to make you laugh. So I think that was different for me back then. And then, life intrudes, you know what I mean? And we have experiences that shape us. I think when we talk about like branding, even as a human or as an artist, what you do, I feel like your brand shifts and changes when you age, number one, or when huge life experiences happen to you. Because I think that just shifts who we are as humans. And when I was young, in my early 30s, I got diagnosed with breast cancer. So like that changed me. Then I kind of wanted to tell different stories. When I got divorced, that changed me. I wanted to tell different stories. When my dad died, that changed me. When my mom died, that changed me. Like all these big things I think in our lives have us, question existence, question whatever, question ourselves, right? Examine our lives in different ways where I think that's when the stories for me started to shift or go, no, I want to tell this kind of story now. No, I want to lean more into that part of who I am and explore that and allowing that to happen, I think is huge.
I imagine, I don't know for certain, I should probably ask a question, is what kind of acting and art were you practicing in New York? I imagine that it was theatre.
Yes, yes, it was theater and musical theater for sure.
And now?
And now it's television. I will say I haven't. In January, I got on a stage again for the first time in 12 years and sang.
Whoop, whoop.
I
What was that? And
know.
sang.
Oh, it was so good. It felt so freeing and lovely and back to my roots. So there's a part of me that really wants to start to pursue that again. I feel like I'm ready to pursue that again. But yeah, I moved to Los Angeles to do more of the on-camera stuff. And I do audiobooks and voiceover and that kind of stuff now too, which I didn't do in New York. But I'm realizing now, again, right, it's always this growth and change and recognition of self. Um, that theater will always be in my blood. And yeah, standing on that stage and looking at that audience again was like it's I think it's one of the most vulnerable things I can do. Singing is one of the most vulnerable things I can do, but it's also feels like the most fulfilling and calming thing that I can do. So yeah, I'm excited to explore more.
I've only ever done stage. I've not done any. Well, I
Oh,
tell a lie. I I was in Harold Pinter's The Birthday Party a couple of years ago.
okay, yeah.
Do you know that play?
I don't. I remember reading it, but I don't recall it right now. But yes,
So I played McCann. He's a bit of a psycho, really. Like, you don't really know what's going on, but you know that you probably wouldn't want to meet him in a dark alley.
got it.
And there was a filmmaker in the audience one night, and he tracked me down, and he said, "You're who I've been looking for to play the lead in a film that I want to want to make." And
Neat.
this is a community theatre production. It's a non-professional. It's professional standards, but no one gets paid.
That's okay.
So we did that film together. Actually, really creatively, really interesting because Rich Morelli, he wrote a script. We rehearsed it 6-week, 8-week rehearsal process, and it's a single location film. But we shot it as a feature film over a weekend. So we shot a feature film over a weekend,
Wow.
and then we performed. So we shot it on the stage where it was in the village hall, just around the corner, and then we performed it unedited, unaltered, as a play for 5 nights. So the same script. We shot it as a film, and then we performed it as a play. It was amazing.
Wow.
And I think it's spoiled me because one of the things I've learned about, or what I've heard to be true about screen acting, is that you don't get that rehearsal process that you do in the theatre.
No, not usually.
So what was that like for you to bridge, having kind of been
Yeah.
brought up and had this experience?
Yeah. It's different. It's different. That's why for me, it's like the goal is, like series regular in television to have that feel of the theater that you go to set every day. You do this thing, you're with people, but like on a film set, if I come in and I'm shooting one day or I'm getting booked a co-star on a TV show or a guest star in either one day, 2 days, it's definitely challenging. It's like, yes, I get to do my art, but it triggers a lot of that stuff of the belonging thing of like, oh, but this is this whole family of people who've already done this thing. And now I'm just coming in as a guest doing it. So you don't have that same, oh, let's explore together and build this thing together. Like you don't have that. And even in indie films or the bigger roles in indie films, they just don't have the budget to do a lot of rehearsal. So yeah, that was definitely challenging. But on the flip side, though, it's almost like you kind of get the instant gratification. Like I work on my lines, we go to set, we rehearse a couple times, we film it, we're like, yay, we're done. That was great.
And bank the check.
I don't have to rehearse for 2 months. I'm fabulous.
I'm looking
Yeah.
forward to going into it. And relatively breaking news. This is my second chance at a creative career. As you know from listening to
Yes.
the Pillar episodes. Interestingly, the director that directed me in The Birthday Party, which led me to get the film, he recently directed me in Medea, where I played Jason, the Greek myth.
Got it.
And on the strength of my reviews, I managed to get an agent in to see the production, and I signed
so
with them this week.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
So yeah, I'm on the path and looking forward to developing my skills as a screen actor in the same way that I have as a stage actor. So that question was entirely selfish. Just
Oh,
wanted to know what to look
got
out for.
it.
Hey, if you haven't figured it out already, this podcast is entirely a selfish endeavor.
I love it. You got to do what you want to do. You're healing the world with sharing stories of people, and of course, you're getting something out of it, right?
Yeah, yeah. So you went to NYU. You've had your 8 years of struggle. You've had this kind of epiphany, if we can call it that. Would it be fair to say that things picked up because you changed what was going on between your ears? First
Yeah.
off, okay.
Yeah.
Once you did that, firstly, can you remember and speak to exactly what you did? And secondly, how long after that did things start to pick up for you?
Yeah, I mean, it was multiple things. It was definitely the mindset, right? And like I said, I read every freaking book I could. So things about mindset, business, everything. I went to like weekend retreat things to like help with limiting beliefs, like T. Harv Eker, Secrets of the Millionaire Mind. I think I did his weekend
Hmm.
intensive twice at that time, like
Okay.
doing things like
Yeah.
immersing myself in just different ways of being. Like I knew I needed to change something, that I had to change my patterns. I had to change my neural programming. So just kind of immersing myself in all of that. And then, taking the business things that I learned and applying it to self. But honestly, with starting that process, it was took like 6 months, 6 months. And then got to join the union and got my agent, and all that stuff started clicking for me. So it happened pretty quickly. Yeah. And then 6 months, even that year, yeah, the year after doing all that stuff that I was doing, I booked 8 commercials that year. 8 commercials where I could not even walk in a room that would pay me money. Do you know what I mean? So it was definitely the "No, I belong here. I'm worthy. I can do this," that helped. And again, the agent and knowing who to target and all that kind of stuff, all the business stuff all kind of came together. But yeah, that year after doing that was huge. It was just huge. And then that was the point where all my actor friends were like, "What are you doing? What's happening? What's going on over there? Something's changed." And then I had, so people kept saying, "Can I take you out to coffee and pick your brain?" I was like, "Sure, sure, sure." And then after like the 40-second free coffee date, I was like, "I think I have a skill set. I think I have a skill set here that I could teach people, that I could help people with." And then probably about a year after that was when I started creating my first coaching business and helping actors treat their careers like a business.
And had you experienced coaching yourself in that time?
I did. Yeah. Yeah. I definitely had hired certain coaches for myself as an actor, as a human, like a life coach I had for a while. I was just trying to figure it out, like I just like trying this path, trying that path. 'Cause I didn't know what would really move the needle for me. You know what I mean? And so I tried everything. And some things worked, some things didn't. Some things were a waste of time. Some things were the best money I ever spent, like life is, right? So yeah, I tried a lot of things, but then distilled it all down to, oh, this is what works for me. And then all the reading that I did in business, and like, what is branding? How do you develop a brand? Okay, that's what this means for an actor, and that's what this means, and that's what this means, and like breaking that down, for something that actors could have a system that was tangible, you know. Because so many artists are right-brained individuals. They're creative. They don't want to be business people. They hear the word business and they want to run away. So I was trying to make it super accessible for myself, even though I'm very left brained as well, but just making it accessible and like systems I could replicate and understand. And then when I started thinking, oh, I could help other people, that's when I said, how can I really make this accessible for artists to go, oh, this is doable? And, I really do believe that actors, artists, whatever, writers, directors, we're the most creative people. Like you're a creative person. Of course, you're going to be good at business. Like the businesses that thrive and survive, I think are super creative. So I just think it's a block when people say, oh, I'm not good at business. Well, it's just a skill you get to learn like anything else. It's all learnable, you know?
And I had a guest on a few days ago, and I mean, he was formerly a musician, really talented on the pipe organ of all things, church organ. Like he started playing it when he was 10 years old. Like it's a pretty bizarre thing to do. Anyway, it was a great conversation. But he describes the entrepreneurial activity as an artistic endeavor. It's
Yeah.
irrespective of whether you are a business as an actor or a business as a painter or whatever. Just if you are in business as an entrepreneur, that in itself is an artistic endeavor. Would you agree? How would you, if you're hearing that statement, how would you respond to that?
Yeah, I totally agree with that. 'Cause I think it is creative to understand, okay, what does my business stand for? Who am I? Right. Going back to that question, who do I serve? Getting really creative about that. Who's my customer that I want? Who's my client? What do they do? What do they think? How do they show up in the world? Like all that stuff is very creative. The name of your business is creative, the tagline of your business, how you reach out to people, your social media. I mean, all of that is creative. So yeah, I agree with that 100%.
So do you ask those questions that you just asked there, and do your clients ask it of themselves as an actor? Who do I serve?
Oh, yeah. For sure.
So who do we serve?
It comes down to like again the stories that you want to tell, right? Like, well, but also when I'm on set, I'm serving the director's vision. Number one, right? So yes, it's me and I get to act and I'm making my choices in this role, but I got to serve the vision of the production, which is the director's vision, serving the producer's vision. When I go in a room to audition with casting directors, it's like we're all there to serve the project. It's not about me. It's like I'm going to tell this story of how I want to tell it. And if it works for you, great. If it doesn't, great. But we're all here to serve the common vision of bringing this project out into the world. But that's why, I mean, I have actors create targeted lists of who they're targeting, directors, writers, producers, casting directors. It's like, who tells the stories that you tell? And those are the people that you got to connect with. So those are the people that you're really serving with your talent, are those that also share in those stories that you tell. So if I'm telling stories of type A women who struggle but persevere, right? Who mask their pain. I'm going to find those people that put those stories out in the world. Because I know how to tell that story. If I want to tell it, I know I can tell the story of being a cancer survivor. Who tells those stories? I'm going to find those people that tell those stories. Even with my script, my sister is a big part of the script that I wrote, obviously. So I've been connecting with a lot of producers who also donate to nonprofits or run nonprofits for special needs children or even people with disabilities, right? Because those are the people that tell the stories that I want to tell. That's the audience I'm serving. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think that helps. I think it just helps me make it bigger than me, right? Because I think so many times, so many actors say, I want to be seen, I want to be heard, but don't see me, don't hear me, it's too much. Do you know what I mean? Because it feels so ego based, right? Like I want to be seen and heard, but I don't want to, it's too much. So when I can think about it as serving someone or what's my audience, who are my people, who do I need, who else wants to bring this type of story into the world, then it's a bigger picture vision of creation together as opposed to I want to have my name on a billboard. You know what I mean?
And how might you apply that to, like, let's pretend the listener isn't an actor or an artist.
Yeah.
Well, if they're an entrepreneur, we've established that they are at some level an artist. How would you apply what you just talked about there to a non kind of arts based business?
Well, I mean, like anything, if you're putting a product out in the world, I know you worked in software, as well. And, if you're whatever product you're is, you go down to how is this benefiting people? How is this serving people? Who are the people that need this? It's like a friend of mine has an app, and it's helping moms, right? And the moms of like who maybe don't have a lot of income or moms who have kids later in life. And so she's figuring out how best to serve them. What do they need? What do they want? Yeah, it's about her business. And yeah, she's figuring out how to monetize it. But at the core of it all is how can I find the people that this is going to benefit and how can I serve them best? So I think it all comes down to serving the people in our community that we want to collaborate with or that we want to buy our product. Even when I'm, pitching my courses or memberships to actors, it's never about take my course. I'm the best. It's like, no, this is how this could benefit you if that's what you need. So I'm looking for those people who need that, who want that, who I can serve in that.
And also in that, it comes around to, I think, the thing that we talked about before I hit record is that you aren't the only actor slash coach doing the kind of thing that you do for actors. I had Asia A. Coleman on
Yes, I love her.
the podcast. Oh my God, what an amazing human! But to some extent, she does a similar thing to you in terms of helping actors. But ultimately, she ain't you, and you ain't she.
Correct.
You are the value, and there will be people that are on Age Ray's list and on your list, and they will be drawn to you because of who you are and your experiences and
Yeah.
how you show up in the world. We've just got to show up in the world, haven't we? As us.
Yes,
Easier said than done, eh?
it is. And I think, I mean, this whole concept of, well, exactly what you're talking about.
You are the value.
For me, it's my brain has always thought, and I'm in this journey right now, actually. And I'm coming to a precipice of it, of expansion and growth, which feels pretty exciting because it's been something that's plagued me my whole life. Is I've always felt that people like me for what I do for them, not for who I am. That my value was in my doing, not in my being. And yes, I know that clients come to me for me and my point of view. Like I know that. I know my friends like me for me, but there's still just something that's been ingrained in my body so deep that I constantly have to do for people. And I feel like that is why they really like me. And so I love that you're posing this question because like I said, I've been in a really even deeper exploration on that now and feel like I'm hitting something of like, yes, but all the things I've created and all the systems I've created are because of me, right? It doesn't matter what I'm doing. It is my point of view. It is my experience, my failures, my successes, my pain, my joy. And yeah, and knowing that that is enough, right? That all we have to do is show up as who we are.
Is there something that has precipitated that deeper exploration?
Aging, getting older. No, honestly though, I think yes, that for sure. Um, and in a more pragmatic way, it's just that I do a lot of things. I have my hands in multiple pots, and I love them all. Like I have my coaching business, and I have. Group coachings and memberships and courses. And I developed a software for actors. And now I wrote my screenplay, and I'm an actor, and I'm an audiobook narrator, and I'm producing. Like there's so many things, and I think for so long, I believed that I could handle it. And I'm at a point in my life where I'm like, I can't handle it all. I have to start to make choices. And it's not that I have to do all these things to be liked or appreciated or seen or valued, right? I can, even if I just did 3 of them and I get to show up as me in that is powerful and that's enough. So it just, I think I'm recognizing that I can't continue in my life with everything that I've been doing and realizing that the doing, like I feel like I have to keep doing to be enough, right? But then I constantly feel like I'm not enough, so I keep doing. So I've been in this loop for a long time and I need to break that loop. So
What are you letting go?
I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. And I think I'm realizing too that it might not be fully letting go. Well, okay, no, it is letting go, right? But even like last week, I delegated like 3 things that I always took care of to my assistant. Like in my coaching business, I have 3 assistants. I have 2 people that work for me in my software. I have an assistant for my producing career. Like I have support. And I think I'm just realizing if I'm going to do what I do, I need to release control of some things, delegate more, bring more people on my team, and ask for more help if I want to do it all. But also recognizing that I haven't looked at my screenplay since December 22nd. And that's okay. You know what I mean? That'll come back to it. That wasn't where the pendulum was swinging at the beginning of this year. So just also giving myself grace that I don't have to hold all the plates up in the air all the time to call myself a writer or to call myself an actor or to call myself those things. That I can be on a podcast with you or coaching people at this university job I'm doing now, and I'm still an actor and I'm still a writer, and it's enough, you know. So
Have you read a book called? You talked earlier about reading a lot of business books. I don't know if you've carried on doing that. Uh, have you come across a coach called Dan Sullivan of Strategic Coach? Have you heard of him?
I have not. No.
He's coached 40 odd thousand entrepreneurs over the last 40 years. Phenomenal organization and a phenomenal man. His first, I don't know what word he uses to describe it. So he's written about 50 books, but all of them self-published. So his first book that was written like for a public market was called Who Not How.
Mm,
Who Not How.
hmm.
And it's just a game changer. I mean, the concept, I mean, the three books I'd recommend are Who Not How, 10X is Easier Than 2X, and The Gap and the Gain. Those 3 books are just transformative.
I love
You
that.
can't read those books and not think the way you used to about business. But Who Not How is about, it's not about what you do. It's about you as the entrepreneur. Your responsibility is to have the vision and to sell yourself on that vision, and
Mhm.
then find other people who are able to help you, who you can collaborate with. I love that you used that word earlier to bring that about. I think that applies whatever entrepreneurial endeavor you're in.
1,000%. Yeah, that was I had a coach last year as a filmmaker, like learning about film finance and things like that, educating myself more on that. And my coach in that program, She said, Jodie, you don't need to know how you're going to get the money. Who is going to help you get there? So it was kind of that same thing of like, oh, I don't have to do all of this. I just need to connect with people, tell them what I need, and eventually something's going to give, right? Eventually something's going to happen that I don't need to know how it's all going to manifest. And the same thing what I say to actors is like, you don't know how your career is going to unfold. We could set the prettiest little goal plan for the year, but you don't know how it's going to unfold because this opportunity could come up. This director you worked with 10 years ago could call you, or the director you saw you in a play and go, come do my
Yeah.
movie like they did for you.
Yeah.
Like you don't know how. It's just, you got to keep putting yourself out there. And it kind of goes back to what you said earlier. Just keep showing up.
Just showing up as yourself, not as you. I think that, and that's the key thing for me that's changed in the last 6 months. Interesting that you said about it was 6 months before things started changing for you. That I
Yeah.
have a real sense that things are changing now, and it's about 6 months. In July last year, I started working one-to-one with Izzy Stevens,
Oh, yes. I love Izzy.
and yeah, that kind of was for me, I guess, was the equivalent for you at the end of your 8-year struggle. It's
Yeah.
like I've come through that 6 months, and I did this play, got an agent, and not that getting an agent. I mean, I'm a lot uh, older and wiser now than when I first left drama school, and I had an agent out of drama school, and thought, you're 22 years old. I've got an agent. Whoa, I've made it. That's
Yes.
fantastic.
Done.
No, no, there's a whole lot more, and I absolutely agree with you. Is that at drama school you're taught about all these aspects of your
Yeah.
craft and being an actor, but what they don't teach you, as you said so eloquently earlier, is when you get out there, you're a business or a business of one, and you've got to figure that out.
Yeah.
And it seems that you've not only figured it out for yourself, but you've figured it out in a way that you're able to teach and coach others. How have you found that? It's not really a transition, but that kind of uh, absorption of this other side of Jodie, the coach and the teacher. How did you find going through that for you? Did it feel natural, or did it take you places that you didn't expect?
It definitely felt natural. So I think I've always, and this isn't the same thing, but I've always been a caretaker, right? Like even as a kid, I like felt like I took care of my parents, I took care of my sister. Like I felt like I've always been someone who took care of people. I'm a really good mediator. I would listen, I would coach people. So shifting into being a coach, and then going back to, oh, I feel a value when I do things for people. Being a coach was kind of a natural progression, which made me feel useful as an artist, right? Oh, I can actually give you things and you now you have a good career, right? I can actually do something. So that was really helpful. And I let's see, how did it work? I started my first coaching business early 2008, and November 2008 was when I was diagnosed with breast cancer.
How did you start it out of interest? What did you do? So you had this idea that you were going to coach. Yeah. So what did you do to go from having an idea to be a coach?
When I was reading all these business books I was reading, I kept running into the same guy at auditions, and he would be reading similar business books. So then we started talking about business principles and this and that. And then I was creating stuff, and he's like, "Oh, I had this idea for this," and then we start talking about it. And then I had all these coffee meetings, and then I was like, "Oh, I could make money from this." So I approached him and said, "Hey, maybe we could join forces and create like a coaching business for actors." And that's what we did. So my first company, I had a business partner that was called the Savvy Actor, and, I didn't know what I was doing. We created an LLC and got a logo, and I put together like a simple website, and I charged, I think, $40 an hour for coaching. I don't know, like something silly. And I was like, yay, I'm doing it. But then it really took off, right? We created more systems and structures and wrote a manual. It was called the Savvy Actor Career Manual. And that got put in Drama Bookshop. And then that started selling internationally. And then I started traveling to university. And then it kind of just like, just went. So I think I was very lucky at the beginning of my business because there weren't a lot of people doing that when I started. And there was such a need for it. So like universities were paying me to fly in. Like there was one year, I think I taught at like 8 to 10 universities, just traveling, teaching all the time. So it was pretty, it felt very in flow. It felt very in flow to do it. But one thing I always joke about is I create businesses to distract myself from my true purpose. I don't just like go sit on the couch and ignore it. I create businesses and like go, oh no, I have to do this. I can't act. I have to do this. I can't do this. So, I've probably created 6, 7 businesses in my lifetime so far. Do you know what I mean? Because that business took on many incarnations. So yeah, I got really sidetracked and really distracted from my own acting career, which was fulfilling in some way, but then obviously not fulfilling, right? So the coaching thing has always been a push and pull for me, of like, I love it. And then when I really love it, I get sucked into it. And then I leave acting. And then I go, oh, shoot, no, because I have to practice what I preach. I can't tell you to do something if I'm not doing it. I can't be one of those career coaches who is no longer an actor, but I'm going to tell you what to do in your acting career. I can't do that. So there was a point in 2018 when I walked away from the coaching business completely. And I was like, I have to get back to my truth as an artist to be able to serve people again, right? If I want to do that. So I had to take a step back. But yes, businesses and running a business and serving people and helping people definitely distract me from my own artistry.
You mentioned flow earlier. So I guess being diagnosed with cancer, that severely interrupted your flow. What was that? What was that like for you, that time of your life?
Well, it was crazy because, I was, like I said, I was in my early 30s. So I wasn't getting mammograms or anything like that. You don't do that till you're 40. And I found my cancer myself. I was literally sitting on my couch, my laptop in my lap, and I just like stretched and went like that. And I was like, what the heck is that? And felt something really high up on my breast, and then went to the doctor. And thankfully at that time I had a really good gynecologist who said, oh, let's get an ultrasound. Let's go get a biopsy. And sure enough, I caught it early. It was stage 1 cancer, but still, like, hearing those words, no matter what age you are, is awful. So yeah, I mean it took me out of auditions. I didn't know what the treatment would be. I didn't know what things would be. You know what I mean? So like everything was like up in the air. Like I just started that business, right? My coaching business just started to get a groove. I think I had literally just signed with a new agent at that time too. So it was really, yeah, I mean, it definitely threw me for a loop, but I'm also the type of person that goes, okay, this is what's happening. What do I do? What do I do? How can I fix it? How do I get through it? Let me, let me get the resources. Let me get all the things, what I think, no, what I know helped my healing process was having this coaching business, because it wasn't, again, me going, oh, poor me. I got to sit on the couch. I got to rest. I got to do these things. Poor me. Like I distinctly remember it was in the middle of winter because I had surgery like around Thanksgiving, and it was like beginning of December, and I had a coaching client and they really wanted a session. So I lived up in Harlem at that point. We bought a place up in Harlem, and there was a Starbucks at the base of my building. And I distinctly remember being all bandaged up, putting on a sweater, going downstairs to the Starbucks in coaching. His name was Xander Chauncey. I won't forget that. And just in that moment, feeling like, oh, I still can serve people, even through my own pain, through my own trauma. I can still show up and serve somebody. And what a gift that was to me, right? To get out of my own head and out of my own space. So I do think having my business at that point honestly helped me navigate going through the cancer journey, because it gave me something else. It gave me another outlet. It gave me another place to feel of purpose, since I wasn't auditioning, since I wasn't doing those things at the time.
How long did it take you out for?
I think about maybe 9 months, 6 to 9 months, something in there. I started like doing some readings of people's stuff probably after 6 months, but like I couldn't audition to like travel and do things. I didn't want to do that at that point. But like, thankfully, I caught it early. So I mean, not thankfully, I guess I got to choose my treatment because of the stage it was at. So I got to choose between hormonal treatment for my cancer or chemotherapy. And then after a lot of, research, I decided to go the hormonal route, which basically meant at 33 years old, I thrust myself into menopause. So I was, so I'd be on stage having hot flashes and,
Oh, wow.
so there's that. But I didn't, have to lose my hair and put poison in my body. And that felt like a better choice for me at that time.
Mm.
But yes, and I was for most of my 30s, I was in menopause. So that was that's a whole other topic and podcast for sure.
Like that's a 2-hour episode in and of itself.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Just going back to the Zag that you started our conversation with, the move from New York to LA. The husband you were with at the time you moved is not the husband you're with now. So did that kind of precipitate things?
He did move with me. Yeah, now we're getting really vulnerable, Pete. We're going deep now. Um, no, he did move with me, and so like I just mentioned my cancer journey and being in menopause. Once I finished that medication that I was on, it took a year to get all the medication out of my body, and it was the year of going to be my 10-year wedding anniversary with my ex. And that's when I started getting all my hormones back in my body. And I distinctly remember this moment where I felt like a veil had been lifted from me. And all of a sudden I looked around at my life and I was like, what am I doing? Like what is this? What am I creating here? Like I felt like I finally saw things clear again, and that the treatment that I was on just felt like was in a cloud for a long time. So coming out of that, I just realized how unhappy I was, and it wasn't that he was a bad human. It wasn't that he was an alcoholic. It was nothing bad. Like it was just nothing bad. It was just you're not the person, and this isn't the life that I want. And we were just roommates living together, and it was fine. It was nice to have a best friend. He was my best friend for so long. It wasn't I just wanted more. I just wanted more.
Was that partly what the move to LA was, thinking that might be more, that might be the life?
I think LA was for lifestyle and career, and that's when I started producing, and that I was producing projects out here, and so there was that. But when we moved, there wasn't even an inkling in my mind that I would get divorced. That wasn't even. It was literally that very clear moment, and it was in like the beginning of 2015 that I was like, "Whoa, what is happening here?" So went to therapy to figure things out. And yeah, I mean, we divorced. We divorced amicably, which was good. But yeah, then we had a dog together that we we passed the dog back and forth every month until the dog died. So we did that whole thing. But yeah, it wasn't necessarily the move to LA that precipitated that, but it was the move to LA, I guess, in conjunction with that happening, that then was the trickle effect of everything. Because when I around that time, my high school sweetheart lived in LA, and I had gotten together with him for dinner and his brother. And then I was like, "Oh, there's a spark there." And so then, I'm getting divorced, and then I got to explore that. And now I'm married to my high school sweetheart, which is pretty awesome.
Well, you obviously read my mind, or you're an expert podcast guest, because that was going to be my next question: is how did you meet your current husband? Where did you go to where did you go to high school?
Back in Massachusetts. So I grew up in Massachusetts, in a town called New Bedford. So it's about an hour south of Boston. And yeah, so we went to high school together. He's 2 years older. But like in high school, we dated for like a year and a half. Like that's a long time in high school.
Yeah, yeah.
And I went to NYU, and he did college around home. But every time I'd come home, we'd see each other. Probably kiss and make out, and so he was like that guy. And like when
Yeah.
I went on tour after I graduated college. I went on tour, and he came and visited me in New York. And like we told each other we loved each other, but he was moving to LA and I was going on tour. And then, life intruded, and, we went separate ways, and I met someone else and got married and blah, but reconnecting, it was just like, ooh, oh yeah. Oh, I remember you. And like, you've known me since I was 13, like that's kind of crazy. So,
Yeah, that shared history.
yeah, it was really nice. It was a really nice feeling of coming back home. It always felt like home. He feels like home, but also he's such a different person than he was then, right? And seeing the growth in him as a man, and then who we are now as humans. It's been really lovely. So, and like I've known his parents since I was a kid. So it's just really, it's fun. It was nice.
Is he in the arts as well?
He's in entertainment. He's in the film TV production side. So he right now is, and he's been for a long time, a head production accountant for Disney Television. So he works in Disney Television. So he gets it. He moved here to be an actor, and then was like, "Oh no, I don't want to do that actor hustle." He did not like that at all. So he's my reader for all my auditions. So that's good.
So when you do think about, just going back to what we were talking earlier about letting things go,
Yeah.
do you think you will let things go, or do you think you will kind of level up in a sense and find who's that might help you
Yeah.
keep on doing the same as what you're doing.
Yeah, I think it's just that I just can't keep doing what I've been doing in the same way. So I think I'm still exploring what that means. Does that mean I don't do audiobooks anymore? Does that mean I don't do that anymore? Or does that mean, no, I just hire someone else to do this part of my business so I have the time and space to do that? And with that though is a huge sense of leveling up, right? Like that's huge. Like again, I'm coming from a lower middle class mentality. Like that's what I grew up with. I grew up with, my dad saying money doesn't grow on trees, rich people are evil, don't get too big for your britches. All those things are the stories I heard growing up. So now who am I to have three assistants? Who am I to have a six-figure business who and then want more? Who am I to, have these things? So it's definitely going, oh no, there's a different way of thinking now that I need to step into, I think, to get someone else who's the CEO of my software, get someone else to be this and take a piece of it or sell it or this, or right. And starting to think in those terms of I can still do all these things, but the structure of it all gets to be different which is true. It's not an if that I want to focus on acting. Like acting still it gets to be the front and center for me, right? I know that part of my journey is being in front of that camera and telling those stories. And I don't want to feel like I have to sacrifice that anymore for the other things that I like to do, you know?
Or on a stage in front of an audience.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, thank you. Yes, yes.
And
Thank you for being that mirror.
because we can have it all. So that there's no that if someone had, what you're saying basically is that if someone put a gun against your head and said everything that you're involved in, but it has to go except for one thing. You can keep one thing. That'll be you as an actor.
That makes me sad, like, but it's true. It's like the truth. Do you know what I mean? Because like I don't want I
Why does that make you sad?
isn't that funny? Like I got really emotional. Um Because I love like, okay, so I haven't taught in academia since 2019, and I'm back teaching right now at the University of Austin, and I built their business of acting program. So they have a satellite program where they bring all the kids to Los Angeles for their last semester. So I've been teaching these kids, and like I said, I haven't done academia for 5 years, and just like teaching 22-year-olds that they're worth it, and like helping them see that, yeah, it's going to be hard, you guys. Like, it's going to be hard, but here's a path and here's some strategy and here's how you can do it. And here's some systems you can follow. And I believe in you. And if you want it, do it. Don't listen to those damn people who say, if you can do anything else, just do it. Like, I hate those people, right? If you really want this, then do it. And I love holding space for people in that way, and I think that's why I've coached for so long is it is so fulfilling to me on a deep level, you know, so I think that's why I got sad if I had to choose one thing. But I also have been thinking a lot about when I get those bigger opportunities, how does the business model change? That I can still do what I do. The business model just has to look different, and that's okay. That's okay.
So the one question I have in that is, where were you when the 22-year-old Pete was leaving drama school? It's like, that's,
I say this to my son, like, I wish I had me when I graduated,
absolutely. Do you know an actor called Joshua Morgan?
I don't know the name, but I might know the face. I'd have to look him up.
There's no reason that you would. Mainly stage work. He and his business partner have developed a program
Mhm.
to help actors have a business as well as a kind of artistic career. Yeah, it's just part of me is thinking I'd been working with Izzy for a while when I first met Joshua, and Joshua didn't know about Izzy, and you don't know about Joshua. You and Izzy and Asia Ray know each other.
Right.
But it's like there's an opportunity to, I don't know. I need to explore it on my own. Perhaps send you a text at 2:00 in the morning saying I just had this
Right.
idea. But because it is not even just coming out of an acting programs or whatever. Just 22-year-olds and even younger. It's like you are worth it, irrespective of what society or family or whatever say to you. It's like I don't know. We're in danger of going down a philosophical route. I think that we're fast running out of time to
Um,
explore. It's like, all of the stuff that you went through in your 8 years of struggle. I mean, have you given that time of your life a name to describe it as anything like the 8 years in the desert? Or
I haven't, but I'm gonna have to think about that. I haven't.
if you were to give it a name, what would it be?
Um, I think you just said desert, which then triggered in me just the word nomad. Like I felt like a nomad wandering, hoping to find the answer. Hoping to be discovered, hoping to find something.
And just think of where you got to at the end of that and what you had to go through to get out of that nomad period. What if the stuff that you went through at the end of that time was put into you much younger age? Why does it take us so many times going around the sun to get to a point where we can finally let go of all of this shit and fucking baggage that has accumulated us that isn't even ours? There's
Right.
shit. There's shit in the backpacks. That's not even ours, and yet we carry it around. We carry it around with us all the time.
All the time. I had this conversation with my husband a little while back, and it was like, God, like I just wish I didn't, have this like this thing of like I always feel like I'm not enough, right? Like that's my deep wound. That's why I do a lot of what I do, and I know that's my thing, and I've come to recognize it. But I try not to overdo or know that my 80% is most people's 120%. You know what I mean? Because I'm always striving to prove. Like I've come to recognize that.
I think your 20, Jodie, just to clarify, I think your 20% is most people's 120%. From what I've observed, anyway.
Thank you. So I was talking about this with my husband, and I was like, God, I just wish like imagine I could just imagine where I would be in my career right now if I didn't have that thing that was with me for so long. Like I know I'd be starring in a series. I could probably be running a fucking production company right now or a studio right now. Do you know what I mean? Like I could probably doing that. And my husband simply said, he's like, yeah, but you wouldn't be you. And I was like,
Mm.
like, yeah, like all of that has made me me. And at the end of the day, I like who I am. I like my heart. I like my empathy. I like how I show up. I like my humor. Like I like who I am. And all of that has made me me. So why would I change that just to change a timeline?
You went into Final Approach and brought the conversation into land on your own. It's like you're doing my job for me here, Jodie. Yes, that's amazing. I can't think of it because you've finished there on what is the point of the whole thing is that you are you, and who you are is not only enough. And I'm talking to you, Jodie, and I'm talking to you, the listener. You are enough wherever you are and whoever you're serving. It's you that matters, not what you know or what you do. That it helps if you do know some shit and you can do some shit, but ultimately, it's who you are.
Yeah.
And thank
Yeah.
you for sharing a little of who you are, really, on this conversation. It's been amazing.
Thank you. Thank you for creating a vulnerable space. I appreciate it.
There's only so much so much detail and depth that we can go into on any one guest's non-straight line journey.
Sure.
Is there any part of your non-straight line journey that we haven't had time to even look at or explore in enough depth that you think would be either particularly inspiring or encouraging or helpful to the listener?
Gosh. So I think going back to God, my brain is like flooded with thoughts. But just I think of like if I were to give like the conversation a through line or even my own journey a through line, I guess it is about like deservedness and belonging, right? Going back to that belonging. And I think sometimes we just don't take the time to examine why we are the way we are or why we think or why we do what we do. And I just know just to share this, I just think because of my sister, because of who she was, I just remember again, 10 years old was like a pivotal year for me. Even my script has flashbacks of when I was 10. I don't know what, like 10 years old, I think really shaped me. But I just remember being 10 and like my sister would be in the yard on her tricycle. She'd be 12. The teenage boys would walk by our house and make fun of her, right? Because she couldn't talk. She talked in baby sounds and, and she was different. And I just remember little 10-year-old Jodie opening the front door to the house and yelling at them to like stop making fun of her, and she's a person and she doesn't deserve that. And, and I think that that's just like, yeah, growing up with my sister was challenging. But when I look at how much that experience with her has shaped me, of wanting everyone to have a voice and that everyone has a place and everyone belongs, and fighting for that, fighting for the underdog, or fighting for everyone again to be seen and heard. I can just take it and stem it right back to that moment when I was 10 years old with my sister, you know. And I just think, for the listener too, what was that moment in your childhood? There's so many psychological theories. I'm sure you've read a lot of them, right? That we've developed our whole personality by the age of 5 or whatever, like there's so many different theories, right, of psychology. But I just think, we can look back and like pinpoint like a moment of like, and that's even why I'm a coach now. That's why I'm an artist now. That's why, I will always call it Black History Month and stand for DEI. That's why I will always do those things. You know what I mean? Then that comes back to that one moment that I can pinpoint, is that we all deserve, right? That's why I want to tell these 22-year-old students they deserve to have this career. That's why I keep telling myself and holding a mirror to myself when I coach, is that, yes, Jodie, you deserve to have more. You deserve to have this. So
Can you say that to me?
you deserve, Pete, to have this career on stage and on screen. You do. You do. And you've proven it to yourself already. You've proven it to yourself already.
Thank you, Jodie. A question I ask all my guests at the end of the conversation: how can the listener and I help you the most right now?
It's such a lovely question. And I just acknowledge your heart for asking it. It's so lovely. Yeah. And one thing I've learned over the course of my life, and I'm still learning now, is asking for help, right? I think that's a big thing. So I really appreciate the question. And I thought of 2 things, actually,
Great.
that I'm going to share.
You can have 2.
One is the feature film that I've written, my screenplay. I really want J. Smith Cameron to play my mother. So J. Smith Cameron, if anyone has a connection to her, or if you're listening to Peter Daly-Dickson's podcast, call me, because I want you to play my mother. So that's one thing. The second thing, which I'm actually excited to just pose, because I know that your whole background was in software, is during the pandemic, I actually hired a developer and created a software for actors called the Actor's Office. And it is a relationship and audition tracker. It's like a personal assistant that reminds you when to follow up and all this stuff. We've gotten to a great point in the development. We have a lot of users. But right now, I just put together my pitch deck for an angel investor. So I'm looking for an angel investor who wants to come on board my software to help artists and support the next generation of artists treat their careers like a business.
You won't know this, but in my day job at the moment, and I smiled when you said that you did a sales job. I mean, what is it about actors and selling a? So I've got a sales job at the moment, and I'm working for a 3 times exited tech founder.
Oh my gosh!
And he's now got a coaching and training program where he helps founders get their first bit of funding typically from angel investors and stuff. So if you wanted him to review your pitch deck for you, I can make that happen, because that's the thing. That's what he does. Is
love that.
He helps founders become investor magnets, basically.
Okay, well, see.
So we'll but surely we didn't need to take an hour and a half to get to that, did it? Really? Come on. You should have just asked for it right out. I would have given it to you, no problem. No, we'll carry on talking about that. Online, but off out of this podcast. Yeah. So, so Jodie, no, actually, I was just about to say that's all, folks. But the other question that I like to ask is, now that you have experienced a not a straight line conversation, who do you know that would appreciate the value of it, the benefit of it, in terms of being able to show who they are and how they be to the world?
Oh yeah. Oh my gosh. I could think of multiple people, I'm sure.
One's fine.
I mean, I can send you a list of people. I don't know if you've chatted with Brian Pataka at all.
I've been trying to get Brian on, and he has said that he will come on already.
Great.
Coming on like six months now. So if you're able to kind of twist his arm and say, look, Brian, I've been on this show and you need to do this, then,
Great. I will.
You'll do that. Okay, great. That's good enough for me. I would love Brian to
Great.
be on. Yeah. And that reminds me, actually, it's time I sent another reminder. If only I had a piece of software that allowed me
God,
to
if
remind.
only. Ah!
Yeah, amazing. So now it does just remain for me, on behalf of the listener, Jodie, to say thank you for sharing your non-straight line journey with us. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate being here. Thank you.
Thanks so much for listening to this week's episode of Not a Straight Line. If this conversation helped to reorient your internal compass or inspired you in any way, please let us know by heading to podcast.notastraightline.life/rate and leave a rating and review. Thanks, as always, to Matthew Bliss of MB Podcast Services for his exquisite engineering of this episode. If you'd like him to help you with your podcast, contact details are in the show notes. And if you'd like to be a guest on the show, or there's someone whose non-straight line journey you'd just love to hear, then please visit podcast.notastraightline.life/guest. Thanks for being here with me, and I'll see you next week for another amazing, deep, inspiring non-straight line journey. Love you.